He was the best liar I ever knew. He could weave stories so intricate, so believable, that reality itself would bend to his will. We called him Leo. For years, he lived in a world of his own creation, a world built on half-truths and grand deceptions. He lied about his past, his job, even his name. It started small, a little white lie to avoid an awkward conversation, a fib to make a story more exciting. But soon the lies grew, branching out like cracks in a mirror, until the person he truly was became a distant, fragmented memory. We, his friends, were his audience. We applauded his tales, captivated by the charismatic character he played. We never questioned the inconsistencies, the sudden trips he couldn't explain, or the people from his past who never seemed to exist. It was easier to believe in the fiction. The truth, we suspected, was far less glamorous. He built a fortress of falsehoods around himself, thinking it would protect him. But a fortress built on lies isn't a defense, it's a prison, and Leo was its only inmate. The first crack appeared on a Tuesday. A simple question from a new acquaintance, "Where did you say you went to college again?" sent him spiraling. He fumbled, contradicted a story he'd told just a week before. The room fell silent. For the first time, we saw a flicker of panic in his eyes, a glimpse of the terrified man behind the mask. The performance was starting to crumble. He laughed it off, a strained, hollow sound, but the damage was done. The seed of doubt had been planted. From there, it was a slow, painful unraveling. One by one, his lies were exposed. The prestigious job was an entry-level position. The wealthy family was a working-class one he was ashamed of. The heroic feats were just daydreams he'd spoken into existence. Each revelation was like a stone pulled from his fortress wall, and with each one he grew smaller, more withdrawn. The confident storyteller was replaced by a quiet, anxious man who avoided eye contact. He lost friends, he lost trust, and worst of all, he lost himself. He hit rock bottom, alone in the rubble of his own making. The silence was deafening. There were no more stories to tell, no more audiences to enchant. There was only him and the truth, a truth he had spent a lifetime running from. It was in that crushing solitude that he finally understood. The lies hadn't made him more interesting. They had erased him. He had become a ghost in his own life. This is where the story usually ends, in tragedy and regret. But for Leo, this was a new beginning. He started the slow, agonizing process of rebuilding. Not his fortress of lies, but himself. He started with apologies. He came to each of us, not with an elaborate excuse, but with a simple, painful, "I'm sorry. I lied." He didn't ask for forgiveness, only for a chance to be honest. He started therapy, confronting the insecurities that had fueled his deceptions for so long. He learned that his real life, the one he thought was so boring and inadequate, was actually pretty great. He had a family that loved him, friends who were willing to see the real him, and a capacity for kindness he'd buried under layers of fiction. The final lesson he learned wasn't about how to tell a better lie, but about the liberating power of the truth. His real story, with all its flaws and imperfections, was far more compelling than any fantasy he could ever invent. It was a story of regret, but more importantly, a story of redemption. If you or someone you know is struggling with their mental health, please know there's support available. Reaching out is a sign of strength. Thanks for watching, and if this story resonated with you, consider subscribing for more.